Welcome to the Film Garage 208 podcast. My name is Sarah, and this is Daniel.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. We have Rini Spencer with us today.
Hi.
Yes, so you might have seen her around on Instagram.
Yes.
At Rini Spencer.
At Rini Spencer.
At Rini Spencer. Tell us about you.
Okay, so my name is Rini Spencer. I moved to Idaho 2 years ago, and I started my social media journey about a year ago, primarily talking about cycle breaking generational curses of trauma and boundaries, healthy boundaries, all the mental health things. And I'm also a real estate agent, a mom, a wife, and yeah, good friend.
I didn't realize that you moved here only 2 years ago.
Yeah, only 2 years.
Okay, so what brought you here to Idaho Falls?
So we, honestly, we just needed a better place to raise our kids. So we packed up and had never even looked or even been in the state of Idaho before we drove here and moved here.
No way?
Yep, we kind of just threw a dart on a map and was like, that's where we're going. And
Wow.
That's bold.
I know.
Where did you move
And you
from?
didn't rethrow when you hit Idaho?
I know, we're like, oh, we need to do this again. No, we moved from Virginia. My husband was in the Navy for 14 years, so we just came from there. Yeah.
Okay.
Originally from Reno, Nevada, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So how...
Wait, so you really just picked Idaho just for no reason at all?
We did, yeah. I mean, like,
Not that you shouldn't live here. Idaho's awesome.
Yeah.
It's random.
No, we honestly, part of it was politics and
Okay.
I don't want to on your podcast.
Do you have family here?
No, we have nobody. So we moved
Gotcha.
here with like no friends, no jobs, no home, nothing. We just packed up and left.
Yeah.
Wow.
And came to Idaho. But it was a lot of things. We just wanted a better place to raise our kids. My daughter needed somewhere primarily cold because she's allergic to mosquitoes. So being somewhere that, So we just packed up and came and drove in and we're like, this is Idaho Falls.
Were you here in the winter or the summertime when you first got here?
We got here in August, but we didn't actually move in here. We had to, the transition period, we had to go back and forth a couple times. So we officially moved into our house in the beginning of November.
Fun.
I know. So then we hit a long winter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How did
Wow.
you find out your daughter was allergic to mosquitoes?
She will get a bite and her whole leg will
Just
swell.
blow up?
Yeah. And it's like a 3-week shebang. So
What?
yes. And then the Navy, you're always, not always, but mostly on coasts. And so,
Right.
yeah, she couldn't even enjoy
Oh
like
my
her own childhood
gosh.
out there. So I was like,
Was
we
she
have
like Bubble Girl, like fully wrapped up when she
Yes.
went outside?
Yes, and I traumatized them because if even anything flies by, they're like, mosquito! I'm like running. I'm like, it's okay,
It's a
we're
bee,
safe.
it's fine.
Yes, even that. Oh my goodness, yeah.
Oh
So
my gosh.
I caused a little bit of trauma. So
She'll talk about that later.
she will on your podcast.
On the
in
podcast.
10
Right.
years.
We'll invite her in 15
Yes,
years.
in 15 years.
Okay, so how did the social media get started? Because you said that
Yeah.
was, or wait.
So I started really my growth on social media like a year ago. So I was raised in a really abusive household and I moved away when I was really young. I was 17 when I moved out, and you don't really realize how much healing you have to do until you have kids. And then everybody can say heal before you have children. It's not possible. You'll have new triggers and
You don't realize all of it.
you don't even realize even half of the extent of the trauma that you will carry into your own children's life. And so, I had seen a trend on social media, on TikTok, and it was, I don't even remember what it was, but I was like, this can really go towards like having an abusive, like being raised in abuse and having to cut off a parent. And so I posted it and it went viral like immediately.
Immediately.
Yeah, it was like an hour later and I was like, oh my gosh, 500,000 views. Like,
Wow, I'm not alone with this.
yeah, I'm not alone with this. And so then
Wow.
I started touching. I'm like, okay, because it's such a vulnerable place, right? And from when you come from abuse, you're very closed off. You're very like protected because you're now protecting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so, so I started posting a little bit more, like hints of here and there. And within about 2 weeks, I had like 200,000 followers.
Wow.
And I was like, holy cow, there's so many people who live the same life I did. And I thought my whole life I was alone. Even though I had siblings that had been abused, like you still feel a sense of just being alone. And I was like, people need this. People need to see that they're not alone, because if I've lived my whole life feeling like I was alone, and all of these people can relate, I need to do this more, and I need to speak on and normalize feeling the feelings that you feel and like how hard it is to break those cycles and to to heal. It's so hard. It's not easy. People are like, oh, I'm in my healing era. No, you're not. If you're like not crying, yes, you're not crying every day and angry, and you're not truly in your healing era. And so, yeah, that's what got me started. And I just realized that there's so many people who feel alone with their trauma, and I want them to feel less alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So were you already talking about these topics on your platform, or was it just on a whim?
It was just on a whim.
Decided.
Yeah. I mean, I had gotten like my Instagram, I actually didn't even start bringing over that content until a few months ago to Instagram. But I know I would do like fun, like get readies with me. And I had like 10,000 followers, nothing, nothing big. And, it wasn't until I did that one and I was like, whoa, like there's actually, people need this. People need to see that they're not alone, and people need to see how hard it is to heal, because a lot of times you feel like, if I'm struggling this bad and this person's so chipper and this person went through all this abuse and they're living like the best life, like why can't I feel that way? Why do I feel so angry and alone inside? And just, I'm like, people need to see, and it needs to be normalized what healing actually looks like, and how you will repeat cycles of abuse to your own kids, and how you have to work so hard not to, because it's your natural, because of what you were raised with, that's what you want to do. You want to react the same way your parents did. And so, it wasn't until that one video that I was like, well, I'm shifting gears here.
What made you post that?
I just saw, I wish I could remember what video it was. I'll have to go back and find it. But I just remember the sound kind of triggering me, whatever sound it was. It was kind of an emotional one. And I was like, man, this seems like I could make something like this, but, trauma wise. And so I did. And I was just, and it took off. And I was like, now everybody knows I was abused.
I was going to say, were you nervous posting that first one?
Oh, yeah.
That takes a lot.
I'm still nervous. I still get nervous posting it. And for a while, I actually almost quit social media completely. And I was like, I just wish, because once something goes viral, TikTok and Instagram will make that your box that you're in. And if you step out of that box, you're not seen. They won't push your content out anymore, and so I was like, how do I get out of this box? Because I was just, it's such a, you have so many, when you start talking out about abuse, you have so many abusers who come after you, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. And so I took like a couple months break, and I was like, I don't think I could do this. It's just too heavy of a topic. And it's so embarrassing to talk about abuse. And then I finally was like, no, people need it. So I went back on, but I did.
Change the stigma on it being embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly. Because it is embarrassing.
Normalized.
Yes.
Yeah. Like it needs to be.
And people suffer in silence in their own way.
All the time. You suffer in silence if you're abused, no matter what type of abuse, whether it be like financial, physical, emotional, narcissistic, you suffer in silence because you're shamed into thinking that you're not worth, your voice isn't worthy of being, heard. So it was really embarrassing. And it still is sometimes. I'm like, I'll post something and I'm like, don't delete it. Don't delete it. Don't delete it.
Do you delete a lot of stuff, or do you just stick with it?
No, I stick. Yeah, I stick the course. I just don't rewatch it very often. I'll like post and I'm like, okay, don't ever watch that again.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yes, I have deleted a couple. Like looking back from like a year ago, it'll come up on my, like, a year ago you posted this, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm deleting that. That was too much. But no, not very often. Yeah.
Do you see like a strong correlation in followers with those like ones that you're like, oh, that was too much? Like now you think it's too much. Do you think that got like your following in the beginning? Because they were like, I can relate to that though.
Like the realness of it.
Yeah, probably. I just think it's just cringy to look back. I just was like, oh, that was so cringe, But it's just hard. And another thing is, I keep talking about it, but it doesn't define me anymore. So like, that's what's really hard for me is with social media and this whole trauma topic is I'm not defined by my trauma. And for a long time I was. And so there's so much more to me than trauma and talking about it every day. And so that's what's really hard about social media is because it doesn't go anywhere. And you'll get shadow banned if you post about it too much, post about anything else too much. And so, I keep talking about it on there, but I'll see comments that are like, do you ever talk about anything else? I'm like, No, but I probably should.
Like, I should.
I should.
Like, this is just a small piece of me you're seeing.
Yeah, it's such a small piece. I mean, for the longest time, it was the only piece of me. But it's, I've come out on the other end in a lot of ways. And that's what's hard, because sometimes I feel like I hold myself back in that trauma. But then other people relate to it and they realize that they're not alone. Like my inbox is full. I mean, every day I get hundreds of messages of people's stories of,
wow.
Yeah, just hundreds of just thanking me. And I'm so glad you post what you post, because now I don't feel alone. And because of you, I was able to cut off my abusive parent, or because of you, I was able to cut off my abusive husband or wife or, friend. And so then I'm like, well, I can't stop because they need that. Mm-hmm. So
that's kind of gotten you into more of like a mentor, like an icon, a role that people want to look at, a role model.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely geared me towards wanting to even be maybe like at some point a motivational speaker. Like right now I'm in the process of starting a book and writing about all the things, and I'm starting to go on podcasts. So yeah, it is. It's kind of shifted, and that's kind of what I want to shift towards, is like not just this heavy trauma, but like, here's the weight of it. Here's what you went through. You're valid for going through that. Here's how hard it is to heal. Yeah. You're always going to be healing. It's not something like you don't become healed. Mm-hmm. You will have triggers for the rest of your life. And it's working through those triggers is how you heal each time. And you're going to be triggered by the same thing. Like, you're going to feel like, man, I thought I healed from that 10 years ago. And so I want to now like kind of shift of, this is life after trauma. And so that's where I'm kind of trying to shift my content towards right now.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Being that someone can like lean on you.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is hard because
I'm empathetic. Probably puts a lot of pressure on you. At
Exactly.
The same time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm super empathetic. So if you're crying, I'm crying. It's just, I can't, like, your weight is my weight. And, so I have to really limit how much I even read my inbox, because I just can't bear the weight of all of people's pain,
So do you interact with these people and like conversate, or?
No, I used to. I used to write back to I used to try like to sit and write back to every one of them. But no, what I've realized is, one, I'm not a therapist. Mm-hmm. So I'm not licensed to help you. And abusers act like victims.
Yes.
So I don't know if you're the abuser or if you're the victim when you're writing me. Mm-hmm. Because people like my mom go on this spiel, and she'll write so many people who support me, and they're always the victim, right? Yep. They always have this long spiel. So I stopped writing to some, because I'm like, I don't know if you're the victim.
I get that.
I don't know your life story. I don't know like what. And a huge part of healing is recognizing your own part in your own pain. So, and like I just did a video today, and it's like every single person has a perception of you, and 90% of that's probably true, and one person, I'm probably the most evil person in the world, and I probably was evil to them at some point. And so I think a huge part of healing is also recognizing your part in your pain. And when people write you, I like that. Yeah. So I do limit who I respond to and how much I even read anymore.
Yeah.
Was that something you had to learn by experience?
Yes.
With those people being one or the other?
Yes. I actually had an experience where one of my followers actually found my number and blew up my phone.
What?
And was like, I need you. I'm being abused by my husband and my parents and my children. And I wrote you on Instagram. I wrote you on TikTok. I wrote you on Facebook, and you're not answering. And I thought it was like somebody who was trying to reach out for real estate, who needed a house because they were local.
Just thought they really wanted a house.
Yeah, and they did not. Yeah. And so it was kind of like that moment where I was like, wow, this person's clearly the problem, because you don't have even boundaries for somebody you follow on social media.
That awareness.
Yes. Or the awareness of how inappropriate that is. And so I was like, whoa, people, I mean, I've always known that abusers, they act like the victim, right? Mm-hmm. That's what abusers do. And especially narcissistic people. And if they're covert narcissists, then you really have a hard time detecting them. So I was like, I need to be careful on who I'm writing, because you never know what abuser you're actually like fueling their sense of like,
that
woe is
fire
me.
Under them.
Yes. Yeah. Everybody is abusive to me, but really I'm the abuser. So yeah. But that happened here, and I was like, oh my goodness. And then I got scared, like going even into Target because I was like, who knows me here? You know?
And who knows all that about me? It's a lot to know.
It's a lot to know. And that's why with TikTok sends your stuff out to like all over the world, right? And so with TikTok, you kind of know that you have 500,000 followers, but most of them are not going to be in your area. Whereas like Instagram shoots out to a lot of locals. And so for a long time, that's why I didn't put it on Instagram, because I'm like, you know, walking through my own office, or so many people day to day would never know the abuse I went through. And then they go to my social media and then all of a sudden they just know this, like, it's like my diary.
All of this.
It's like they're all reading my diary, you know? And I'm like, that's not for you. Like, don't act like you know. And so,
so do you get judgment then from people who don't maybe understand where you're coming from?
Yeah.
Is that the people you're afraid of knowing? Because anyone who's been through any kind of trauma would hear what you're saying, and they shouldn't judge if they've been through anything like that.
I know. You know what I've chalked it up to is the haters either are the abusers, are being abused and they don't want to recognize it, or have never been through it and can't empathize with it. And so it's not really even those that I'm even afraid. It's just such a vulnerable place to be when you have all these relationships with people and they're like, oh yeah, I saw your video last night. It was great. I'm like,
you don't talk about that in person.
Yes, we don't talk about my videos. Okay.
No.
Yeah. So it's more so just getting over the fear of, I don't even know what the fear is really, but no, it's not. Haters on the internet, I just block them. I'm like, I don't have time for your energy. So yeah, it's not really those that I
Did you find it harder to like talk about all of this at the beginning before you feel like you've maybe healed fully?
Yeah. Yes. Like even my whole life, I've only had one friend, and that one friend since I was 2 years old. And so she went through all the abuse. She saw it all. We went through our own abuse together. And so, any new friends didn't even know. Like I had friends that I'd had for years and they're like, you know what? You've never even mentioned having a mom. Like, do you even have a mom?
Yeah.
Because I was so closed off. But then that's a huge part of what people think is like, oh, I'm this independent, strong person. I don't need anybody. I could do it all on my own. That's such a trauma response, because you do need people and you do need to be vulnerable. And in vulnerability, you'll find strength. And so in the beginning, it was like this is so, it's just, it was so humiliating to post about, but it's not anymore. But it was hard because I was like I don't need anybody. I got my one friend and I got myself. And
you just get to a day where you felt like today's the day I need to share this? Or like,
it was just that trend. I don't know what it was. But I think that through sharing my story, I did a lot of my healing too.
I'm sure.
Because I felt so validated, you know, like you tell, you have all this pain and all of this sense of like, I wasn't worthy of being loved. And then you have thousands of other people who are like, they validate your story or they validate your feelings, and they went through the same thing. They're like, wow, I thought that this wasn't even that bad. Then you hear somebody else's reaction and they're like, oh wow, holy cow, that was bad. You're like, really? Because I thought it was too, but you know, I just kind of gaslit myself out of it. Yeah, you know, and then growing up in the environment that I did, you know, I think that most of us did, where parenting, children were supposed to be seen and not heard, and abusing your child was your way of discipline. You know, it was like, that's your discipline of your kids. And so you grew up with people knowing, you know, I'd come to school with lashes on my back and bruises on my face and just completely beaten down, and nobody would say anything. Whereas like now you'd get CPS called on you if a kid came with like a lash mark on their back.
They better be.
Yeah. So I think
all
that
the stuff in the news, they better be.
Growing up where people kind of just turned a blind eye to your abuse, it just made you feel like, man, like if you guys didn't see it, then I must be overreacting and it must not be as terrible.
And then as a child, you're just validating that in yourself.
And so then
growing up with it.
So I think that even through posting, I was like, holy cow, like, no, I was really abused, and I was, and still to this day as an adult, really abused. And there was something healing about that really helped. And then I've been in therapy for a long time too. So my therapist was like, yeah, stop gaslighting yourself. I'm like, I know. So,
but what you said was interesting with like, it can even happen as an adult.
Yeah.
And
100%.
Like, we've experienced our own narcissistic behaviors and family members. And it's interesting just seeing that it can happen at all times of your life.
Oh, all times. Yeah.
And it's hard.
It's so hard.
It is interesting to me seeing how similar these narcissistic behaviors are.
Well, people get so mad at me
It's-
because they're like, I always say I can sprout a narcissist like candy. And they're like, they're not as common. No, they're everywhere. The problem is in order for a narcissist to actually get medically diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, yes, they have to go to a therapist and a psychologist, and they have to be diagnosed. They have to recognize it in themselves. And if you are recognizing that you have narcissistic traits, the odds of you actually being a narcissist is not true. And a lot of people believe that narcissists can't change. I don't believe that. I think that, so they're everywhere.
So what do you do for a medically diagnosed narcissist? Like, there's not a medicine you can give them, right? It's literally just got to be just
deal with
therapy
it.
and talking to it. And there's no real solution, right?
No, I don't really know. I guess I just have really different...
Work on patience, I guess. I don't...
Stop abusing people.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, I have such a different perspective on... I think the diagnosis for a narcissist is... kind of silly, because I don't feel like we were made. I don't feel like God made us to be abusive people, and narcissists are extremely insecure. That's what actually forms a narcissist, is their deep-rooted insecurity. And I think that anybody is capable of change. And so a true narcissistic personality disorder diagnosis is a huge indicator that you'll never be different. And I don't believe that. And so I think that, I think they're everywhere. And I think there's a lot of insecure people everywhere. And
that's not fully narcissist. It's just insecure people.
Well, narcissists, they are just very insecure.
Got it.
Yeah. Because a secure person with themselves would not want to tear you down.
Yeah.
So narcissists are typically, from the research that I've done, and mind you, I'm not a therapist or a psychologist, but are typically the golden child of the family, where you're always put on this pedestal and you can never do anything wrong.
The narcissist is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so a lot of golden children have this, like, I am better than you, but that's deep rooted in insecurity, because a secure person will never, ever, ever think that they're better than somebody else. Like, I think you guys are amazing, strong people. And I have my own insecurities, but my insecurity doesn't want me to derail your security.
100%.
And so I just feel like the more that a person can work on themselves, the better they can be. So there are all these diagnosed on social media narcissistic people with NPD.
Yes.
And I'm just like, but you recognize those patterns now, and you're doing better, and you're helping other people recognize those patterns. So how are you still a diagnosed because according
there's
to
a few of those there's like the guy.
Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting to me because, but I guess maybe I just don't know enough about it scientifically.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are like, oh, it's this, MPD is also, what's it called? When you can get it from the family.
Oh,
like hereditary?
Yes. And I'm like, bull crap. Okay, it's
but
not.
They're saying that narcissism is hereditary.
Oh, yeah. It can run in the family. I'm like, gotcha. Because insecure people raise insecure people.
It's not a chemical balance or imbalance.
Yes.
100.
Yes. So it's just so I'm like, I was raised by a narcissist, and I could have become a narcissist, but I didn't. And for a long time, I had a lot of narcissistic traits.
Yeah.
And I was abusive, and there were a lot of relationships that I did a lot of things wrong in.
Yeah.
But I recognized those patterns in myself and changed. So yes, a narcissist can raise a narcissist, but that doesn't mean it's hereditary. So it just drives me crazy. But I think that I know that all of us have narcissistic traits, and some of us want to be better and some of us don't. And that's kind of how I look at it. But it's so funny how many people get triggered when you're like, even when you like hashtag narc abuse, they're like, narc abuse isn't real. And you're like,
found one.
Yes, exactly. Like, okay, well, there's only two types of people who say that. You either are one or you're being abused by one and you don't want to recognize it. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Do you know when to get medically diagnosed as a narcissist? Is it like a list of questions or what?
I don't know.
Have you
I should look in more into it. Yeah, as much as I throw the word around, I really
Do they
should.
just sit in a room with that person and see how many questions they ask about the other person?
I
If they just talk
know.
about themselves the whole time?
I have no idea how the diagnosis goes, but it's interesting to me that that's even a thing because, but they also, where my mindset is like, people will say narcissists can't change, and I just don't believe that.
It does seem easier to handle them if you know they are a narcissist for your own peace of mind.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So have you guys heard of gray rocking?
No.
Okay.
No.
It's the best way to handle a narcissist of any kind, whether you're dealing with somebody with narcissistic traits or a straight up narcissist.
So you said gray rocking?
Gray rocking.
Gray rocking.
Like the color.
Just
The gray rocking.
Okay.
So it's where you deliberately act unresponsive, unengaging so that the abusive person will lose interest in you. So abusers want reactions, right? That's what fuels them is a reaction. If you are reacting, then they're still in control. Mm-hmm. The moment you stop reacting and the moment you stop giving them that, that's when they will lose interest and they'll find their next victim. So, and they will always narcissists or abusers. I'm just going to say abusers. We're just going to use abusers.
Sure.
So abusers will, even when you gray rock them, they will come back during certain times of the year. So birthday, Christmas, somebody died that they'll use these little opportunities to see if they still have their foot in the door, to see if they still have control. So a huge part of gray rocking is not engaging. Like, oh, happy birthday. Don't give them.
Don't even respond.
Don't even respond.
Get it.
Yep. Don't even give them the satisfaction of the response because an abuser will always want to see if their foot's still in the door. Mm-hmm. If their foot's in the door, you just open the door to have to rebuild the boundaries that you just set for yourself all these years. So that's why when I go to when I cut off my mom, for years I would cut her off. I mean, it wasn't like I just cut her off in the last 4 years. It was years of me cutting her off.
It's been a progression.
Yeah. And then I would let her back in.
Learning.
Cut her off, let her back in, cut her off, let her back in. But you have to be you have to cut and final and until there's actual change. And one thing I learned too about the brain is your brain is a muscle, right? And just like your body, you have to, if you want to build your muscles, you have to work out. And it takes a long period of time. It is physically impossible for you to say that you have changed and not have done the work for a long time. So a lot of times people ask me would you let your mom back in if she said I've changed? You have been abusing people for 40 years.
Your life.
For life. Your brain is wired to react this way, to be abusive. You would have to intentionally put yourself in situations, script, practice changing the way that your brain responds in order for you to actually change.
It's true, because how can you change if you don't know what the change is?
Exactly.
What you're doing.
Exactly. So many times, and I learned this in therapy because you are like, oh, I thought I changed. And then this situation, I was triggered and I reacted the same way. Well, but that's because that's what your brain knows to do. That's the muscle memory that you have instilled in your brain. So it takes work, so I don't think abusers can't change. I just think before you let them in, they need to prove that they've done the work.
And be realistic with themselves about
100%.
what time they put in.
Right. And I don't think even 6 months, if somebody's been abusive for 40 years is enough time to prove that you changed.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, because you're like in my therapist too with my spouse and I, when we were in couples counseling, he was like, you guys need to actually sit down and script these things out, because the more you practice this response, the more your brain will be like, this is how I need to respond. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, I just, if you have to engage with somebody who's abusive, whether it be like a coworker, hopefully not in your guys' case, but
yeah, right.
What other coworker?
I'm listen, gray rock him, okay? Or her. But I always go to the gray rock method because I don't have to give you a reaction. And even if I have to deal with you, because I just took your power away, and then cut them off if you can. And don't let them back in until they've proven that they've actually done the work to change the way that their brain actually will respond in situations. So,
have you personally known anyone who's gone through that? Actually had that?
Besides herself?
Well,
what do you mean?
No, someone who's had their parent come back and change.
Oh,
after, you know, like you said, 40 years.
40, you know, no, I don't know anybody. I know there are
I would
some,
assume most people, like you said, couldn't.
Yeah, most people can't. They won't do the work, you know. And a lot of times with our generations, like the boomers, I hate to call them out, but most boomers were severely abused themselves, and their excuse is, well, this is nothing compared to what I went through. You know, I didn't abuse you. You should have seen what I went through. Instead of recognizing, like, no, what I still did was abusive.
Yeah.
And so, and a lot of times I think that parents, in order to realize, like, there's so many children who are adult children who are so messed up, and I fully blame the parents. And whether it be, you know, parents that are boomers or the generations before, it is 100% a parent's, what's the word I'm looking for? Fault. Yeah, I 100% think it's a parent's fault for how their children become. And I think that a lot of times there's parents that have children that are drug addicts and narcissists themselves and abusers themselves, and they always want to blame their children. Like I see in my comments all the time, oh, adult children can be abusive too. And it's like, yeah, because you made them that way. You know, we weren't born abusive.
They were raised this way.
Yes, whether you coddled them too much, you know, you were condescending their whole life. Like you made the children who they are today.
Yeah.
And I think that parents would have to take accountability for how their children became, and too many parents won't do that.
Take the ownership.
Yes, they won't take ownership of how their kids are who they are. And I'm not talking about the kids that have done the work, because I will not give my mother the satisfaction of having an amazing daughter because of who she was. But I was a broken person for a long time because of her. And so I think that a lot of parents don't want to take accountability for their part in their own, who their children have become.
I think they have a hard time.
It's like their brain gets calloused.
They can't just say.
It's just like hard over time.
But that's a narcissist, is that they have to be perfect. Everything has to be perfect.
Yeah.
And then your child, maybe your child's not this perfect image that you had in your head.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden they're like getting the whiplash from that because it wasn't your expectation.
Yes. And then they go to blame the child.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's like, oh no, nothing you did ever made this kid feel so unworthy that they chose drugs over, you know, a good life. You know, it's just, it's so, it makes me mad.
Some people just won't look in the mirror.
Yeah.
No.
And I will always, I have gotten a lot of hate for this opinion, but I will always say that an adult child is a direct outcome of their parenting. And that's just the way it is. So I'm like,
that's just how it is.
Yeah. Your kid was not born an abuser. Your kid was not born a drug addict.
Right? Kids are all so sweet, like, you know, so little, like Eve. I'm like, she's innocent.
Well, and you just see, like, I see kids that are, you know, I will get in a fight in public over somebody abusing their child, because I'm like, you know what? That kid needs to see that one person was there for them. Like, there were few people in my childhood who gave me the spark of hope of, oh, they see me.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I got into it with somebody at Olive Garden a couple of months ago.
Oh, no.
Because of how they were treating their kid. And I'm like, you know what? Their son will always remember that somebody saw them and saw how they were being mistreated when everybody else turned a blind eye. And maybe that spark of hope will give him the drive to not turn to things like drugs and alcohol. Yeah. And actually, you know,
would you be able to share about that? I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I was sitting down at Olive Garden, and there was this mom and a dad and two boys. And
how old?
I don't know. They were probably between like 5 and 10.
Oh, so young.
Yeah, they were young. And the one little boy the waitress came up and she asked the little boy, like, what can I get for you? And he just got kind of shy and kind of turned his head. Yeah. And so one of the parents ordered for him. And then the second little boy ordered his own food. And when he went away, the dad ripped into him and got super loud and aggressive and tore him down. And when somebody speaks to you, you speak to them back. I didn't raise this type of child to be so stupid and disrespectful. Oh my God. I was just like, okay, first of all, my kids don't have to talk to my kid doesn't have to talk to anybody they don't want to talk to. Yeah. Okay? Stranger danger is always a thing. And if somebody
That's crazy.
Yeah. And then as the time went on with when they got the food there, it was just these kids went from excited because they had also mentioned, well, we don't ever go to restaurants and we're treating you to something nice. And just this guilt trip of you owe us because we're doing something nice for you, which is such an abusive thing that parents do.
It's always, I bought you this.
Yeah, I got you this. I own you. You weren't worthy of this.
Yeah.
You weren't worthy of going to Olive Garden, but we took you anyways. And this is how you're going to act. And I just had enough. And I just told them that the way that they're treating their boys is disgusting, and their boys are going to grow up and never want a relationship with them. And when they question why, I hope they remember this chat at the table.
That's great.
Yeah.
What'd they say?
Yeah.
Nothing.
They didn't say anything?
Nope. They didn't say anything.
They probably never expected anyone in a million years to confront them about that.
Let alone logically and level-headed.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Well, good for you.
Yep.
That's important.
And I don't care where I am. If I see somebody mistreating a kid, I'll say something, because I'm like, you know what? When I was a kid, I wish somebody would have said something.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that did, because there were, I have those people in my life that I will forever love, like in a maternal way.
Yeah.
Because they took me in when I didn't have anybody taking me in.
Yeah.
And they got in fights with my mom, and they, it was a big thing. And actually one of them wrote me the other day, because she had found me on social media, and she was like, I'm just so proud of you for speaking out. And when your mom and I cut ties all those years ago, I was so sad because I didn't just lose that relationship, but I also lost my relationship with you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But she has always been somebody in my head that, like, she saw me, she loved me, she stood up for me.
Yeah.
And those people, so I always think of the kids that when I see them being abused is like, your parents may hate me forever, but you'll always remember the person at Olive Garden who saw you when nobody else did.
Yeah.
Or when everybody turned a blind eye.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll go to town.
That's
I don't
awesome.
care. I'm a mama bear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's great.
That is, thank you for sharing that story.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you're doing real estate as your main job.
Yes.
But you are deep into this field here.
Yes.
Like, would you ever
You
go
found your
back
niche.
to school for like a therapy or like a counselor?
Yeah,
or
I know my mental health couldn't take it.
yeah.
No, I'm serious.
Just kind of dabble in, not
No,
like jump full in.
I
Because that
can't-
is a lot more.
I can't
That's
hear
hard.
hard stories. I mean, if it's somebody I truly love, like we're friends, I can hear your story and I can take it on.
Yeah.
I can't, like, I had last Friday, 2 friends of mine at my office tell me some horrific stories that happened locally, and it ruined my whole day. I cried the whole day. So
Yeah.
I bear your weight as my weight,
Yeah.
and I'm happy to do that if we're good friends. I can't do it for other people. So
That's so understandable.
Yeah.
That is so.
I just can't. And that's why I don't even read half my messages, because sometimes it's horrific, the stories I get. And I'm so thankful that they feel a safe place to tell somebody
Yeah.
these things too. But I just can't. Yeah. I just can't. I can't. But I got into real estate because I wanted to help people also. So I think I'm just strongly driven to help people. Like I had my mentor tell me that his love language was not acts of service, but being of service to people.
Okay.
And I strongly agree with that for myself, because I just feel so loved when I can help people. And so with real estate, we actually got really screwed over with our situation. And
when you moved here?
You
when we moved
personally?
here. Yep. When
Okay.
we moved here. And had we had the representation that we deserved then we wouldn't have been in the situation that we're in today. And so that was actually my driving factor to get into real estate, was to help people and to make a difference in the industry, because so many other agents are in it for their own gain. And
Yes.
this real estate is a life-changing event. If you buy something that needs the amount of work that some homes do, and you cannot do that, and it can change your life for the next 10 plus years. It's not like you can just trade your house in for like a car, and maybe lose a little bit of money. You're stuck in that position. And so I got into real estate for the same reason why I'm on social media. It's just kind of different, but my drive for real estate is to represent people in the way that they need and they deserve in when buying a house, so they don't have to go through what we went through.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
And then you also mentioned working on a book.
Yes. So I'm currently, actually, I've been thinking about this for like a long time, I say a long time, but since I started on social media, because I had so many people write me about writing one. And And so finally I'm like, you know what? My story is going to be told. And that's what, before I was so like just hesitant to write a book because
Like an autobiography or like an actual like what kind of book?
yeah, that's what we're kind of in the works for, because I don't want it to be like, oh, woe is me, here's all the trauma I went through.
Yeah,
but
like
I
literal
do,
stories.
yes,
Yeah.
but I do want to put some stories, and
For sure.
what I've kind of been playing with the idea of is having this story, the impact it had on my life for many, many years,
Yes.
and how I've worked to overcome it, or I'm still working to overcome it.
Yeah.
And before I couldn't figure out like, okay, I don't want it to be this long book of just like my life stories and this sucks and woe is me. And I also didn't want to write a book about like, oh, life after healing is amazing, you know? And so I think I'm going to like, I'm going to pinpoint some really stories that really affected me my whole my whole life.
Yeah.
Up into even now affect me.
Yeah.
And talk about like how it was to recognize those and then how I'm overcoming those and kind of have like maybe lead that up into a series of
Yeah.
life
That'd be
books.
cool.
So those
could be
it's
TED
still
Talks.
Cool.
Yes.
You could be going and doing some TED Talks.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's still, and we're still playing with the idea because I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. I'm still playing with so many ideas. So we're just trying to figure it out.
Just got to start writing things down and see where it goes.
Yes, exactly. Like my goal would be so fun to like actually go on like the Kelly Clarkson show, because she was so abused and she's like was raised without a father and had a toxic relationship with her ex-husband. And I'm like, I always think like it would be so cool to one day be able to like have my book featured and like go on a show like that. So that's kind of like big goals that I'm going towards.
We'll talk that out into existence now.
Yeah, exactly.
On Kelly Clarkson.
Kelly Clarkson, I know, or Drew Barrymore. I love her too. Even though everybody's hating her right now, I like her still.
We heard from Haley she has good stand mixers.
Who's that?
Someone
Daisy
we interviewed.
Oh,
like two podcasts ago.
The baker, right?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yes. She has what?
The Drew Barrymore mixer.
Drew Barrymore makes a good mixer, apparently.
Apparently.
Oh, okay.
I
I'm like,
didn't know
get me
that.
in with Drew Barrymore, Haley. Come on.
But okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
really cool. So any other projects? Because your plate's pretty full with those.
Yeah, it's really full. Real estate is awesome.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to give that up,
Are
because
you
your
staying
question
busy
was,
right now with that?
yes, I am staying
Okay.
very busy, which is amazing. I have some, like, just the amount of people, like a lot of people keep saying like, how'd you build your business so fast, so quickly? And I'm like, just referrals. You know, you treat people well the first few times and they'll shout your name to the world, which is
Yeah,
really
and you're
awesome.
new to town.
Yeah.
So
I've
how
only-
did you meet people, or how did you?
real estate?
Are you a part of a company or do you do your own thing?
So I own my own business. Yes, First Sight Realty. I'm actually in the process of rebranding completely, which is going to be fun. And I work for Keller Williams Realty, East Idaho.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's where I'm brokered under. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I love the brokerage. So, but yeah, so I'm not going to quit real estate, because if I quit, then I feel like so many people will have bad experiences. I'm like, nobody will have a good experience unless they work with me. I truly believe that. But so I don't want to quit real estate because it's a big passion of mine. I just need to figure out how to write a book, go on podcasts, continue on social media.
All at once.
All at once. I did join a talent company for social media to start monetizing my content,
Cool.
which is really cool. So I'm with
Nice.
Henry Talents right now.
Cool.
And yeah, so I just did that. And
Is that new?
that's what's
Like recently that you just signed up with it?
Yes, it's not been very long that I
Yeah.
signed up with that, which is cool because I would love to be able to monetize my account.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
I just am like I don't know how to do it.
Exactly. I was
So-
gonna say, if you know a lot, I want to pick your brain.
Yeah, I don't know. I
I'm
don't know
curious what all the
anything.
information they give you.
Nothing. Well, nothing so far because they do all of it. You know.
Oh.
Yeah. So like
So what, you
they
just send them a video and they
see.
post it and everything?
no. So I do the posting. So I'll have to send them like a draft. But so they pretty much handle all of my emails that I get. So I have my email like on my
Yeah.
Instagram, and they'll handle all my emails. They'll pitch deals for me.
Cool.
They'll respond to people that pitch me for deals. They don't handle like anything in my DMs personally, but they do all like the back end stuff.
Yeah.
So and they'll tell me
Hopefully
like
get you some
yes,
jobs.
like if they find a deal for me, they're like, hey, are you interested in this deal? If so, it needs to be posted by Friday. We need a draft by this day, and yeah, so they kind of give you the direction.
That's really cool.
So yeah.
And did you reach out to them to find
I did.
them?
I had a friend that was signed through them, and so I was
Cool.
I was like, "Who are you signed through? I need help."
Is that out
Yeah.
of Idaho or
No, they're
out of
actually
state?
out of Canada.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Wow.
Henry Talents. Yeah.
Henry Talents.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully you see a big change now.
I know. Well, and another thing that's huge for me is like, I don't want to change my content into being one massive ploy for income.
Right.
So it just has to, if it doesn't fit with what
And annoy everyone.
And annoy everyone. The nice thing is once you get so many like loyal people to you, they want to buy what you buy. But I also,
Yeah,
or what
support you.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I also will not post something that I do not actually love. So like there's some brands that I won't even work with because I think they're trash. And so when I do post, it's going to be something that I've already tried out. I've already had a good experience with, and I like the company. So when I do post it, because I'm like, I have built a following of trust, and I'm not going to break that just for $1.
Wouldn't that be ironic?
I know.
Cause trauma, shopping trauma to all these people.
Shopping trauma, I know. And we're all going to have our own taste, but at least my followers will know what I post is genuine, something from me. So
Yeah.
And you'll have, I'll probably lose some followers through it, but whatever.
Maybe add a podcast of your own to the mix.
Yeah.
I feel like with what you talk about.
Yeah, you should start a podcast.
I
like
know.
on this.
You guys should
you
help
said
me.
you didn't want to like hear too many people's stories though. Will that drown you out?
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe that'd be overbearing for you.
I know. I don't know. I've thought, so I actually have a friend he's in real estate. And we want to start a podcast together, and it's like a mix of like trauma and real, like kind of all the things. And we have a really fun name for it and everything. We've toiled with the idea. If I started a podcast, I just wouldn't want to do it by myself.
You need someone else to kind of.
You can't just be trauma girl.
Even though he's
alone.
Exactly. I can't be trauma. That is what it's going to be called. We need to don't put that in there so people can't steal it. Yes, exactly. I can't be trauma girl alone. But he only joined your show today. So how do you feel every day not working with him?
Right. My new.
Daniel, how are you doing today?
Same as the last 6 times we've done this.
I know, it's so fun. Yeah. So, anyways, I do want to do I think a podcast would be a lot of fun.
If you do want one, you know who can help you out.
I know. I don't know. See, that would be so fun to do a podcast.
You just have to think of like your topic. That's just the hardest thing.
Is it the
topic?
Hardest? I know.
And then having to be consistent with it.
Huh? There's like 3 podcasts before the first one that we posted that we didn't post.
They will never be seen.
They're deleted, gone.
Was it so bad?
I mean, I still think the first one we posted is I can't even watch it again.
Oh my god, you do
but
what I do.
You should have seen the first 3.
Was it terrible?
Oh, it was bad. Oh. It was really bad. Like we would hit record and then we're just sitting there and it was like, so what are we saying?
Literally, I'm like, I hate this.
And then someone would say something and you don't know how to respond because you didn't have a topic yet. Like
you're like, I don't know what we're doing.
No. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's okay. You did it anyways.
You live and you learn.
You did it anyways.
And then we finally got that first one that was like okay-ish. We were like, post it because we just have to rip the Band-Aid.
Yeah, you have to rip the Band-Aid off. Yeah. Exactly. And you know what? You're going to look back in like 5 years when you guys are booming. You'll be so proud of yourself that you posted your first video.
Exactly.
So just keep going.
I hope so.
Keep going.
I hope so.
Hopefully I'm not cringing 5 years from now.
I do. I would think a podcast would be a lot of fun. It's just so like, I'm like, okay, where does it fit in,
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's maybe growing their social media platform.
Yeah.
Or maybe just has like a message that they want to share.
Yes. Okay.
What's the first step? Like, what is your advice?
Just do it.
Just do it?
So 1, be consistent.
Okay.
Consistency is key, no matter what niche you're going to post. And so, I mean, you could post 2 times a day. You can post 3 times a week. Whatever you're going to choose to do, make sure it's consistent and make sure it's more than like once or twice a week. And what I always say is, what are you bringing to your audience and what do you want your audience to be? So, do you want your audience to be fashion? Do you like you're going to attract what you put out there. So what do you want your audience to be? So for me, that's why I get so many trauma stories, is because I have attracted people who have been traumatized their whole life or a portion of their life. And so what do you want your target audience to be? And how can you make your content attractive to them? And a lot of that is, I would say, length too, is, unfortunately, where we are in our day and age, we only have about a 5 to 7 second, if that, until we're on the next topic.
Yeah.
What?
Like, 10 second Dan. Tom, what's it, Tom? 10 second Tom over here. Yeah. We're going to call you 10 second Dan. But so exactly. There would be so many videos and I'm like, I'm sure that was a great video, but I'm already on to the next thing, So I would say, figure out what what your target audience is. Whether it be entertaining, motivational, inspirational, be that, and keep it simple and short, because nobody wants to read a 10 to 15 minute TikTok.
She tells me that all the time. Keep it simple, stupid. Hurts my feelings every time.
Don't traumatize him.
I know.
It's okay. It's an Office joke, so she can get away with it.
Is it?
If it's a quote for something, it's okay.
Yeah, if it's a quote from The Office,
Is
it's
it
fine.
The Office? I haven't watched that.
You haven't watched The Office?
Don't judge me.
Well, you're in for a treat. Go watch it.
I know. You know what? It was on Netflix for a while, and I started it, and then they took it from Netflix, and I'm like, well, I ain't hunting it down.
Yeah, it's gone.
So,
it's gone now, which is a bummer.
I know. I'm a Friends person. I like Friends and Gilmore Girls.
That's a good one.
Like,
Nice, good, and wholesome. I like some Gilmore Girls.
yeah. That's
Do you like
my
awkward humor? That's The Office, like real dry humor.
I can see you liking awkward humor. Yeah, no, I know.
I'm all about it.
I know. I can see you being like the awkward humor type. No, I'm just like, that was not funny. Why are people laughing?
That's so funny. I was gonna tell her our favorite right now.
Oh, Tim Robinson.
Tim Robinson.
Yeah.
It's I Think You Should Leave.
Is it a show?
It's a show.
He's a comedian. He does like
Okay.
SNL skits.
Oh,
kind of thing.
okay.
Kind of.
Okay.
They're like 5-minute, 10-minute if skits.
Skits. Okay.
And they're so funny.
So
it's
funny.
like real life scenarios that kind of happen all the time. But he's like just blowing it off the wall, and it's hilarious.
Have you guys seen?
He talks with that inner dialogue that you probably use in your head a lot
Yes,
when you want to
he
respond
says
to
it
things.
out loud.
But he
Yes.
says it.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
I love that.
oh.
You'll have to send it to me.
Yeah.
I'll watch that.
Yeah, it's funny.
I watched the one with the courtroom where like everybody was an actor besides the
Yeah.
one
Yes,
person.
jury duty.
Yes,
Yes.
that was
That one
good.
was
Okay, and I
really
feel like that was kind of dry
good.
humor.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Ish.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I can kind of fit
If you
in.
could vibe with that, you'll like The Office.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've watched a few episodes of The Office, but I just never. And Netflix
Yeah.
took it from me.
Yep.
So
Your dad didn't believe that whole thing. We
Jury
had fights
duty?
over that
My dad
show, what was going
thought
on.
that it was fake.
He was like,
he
"No
was like,
way."
no way anyone would believe any of this
all
is
of
real.
it that happened.
Yes.
Because he's an attorney, so he just doesn't buy
And so
it.
he's like in these scenarios, and he's like, "Are you kidding me? Like that would never happen." I'm like,
But then he
they
comes.
don't know that.
Yes, exactly. They don't know.
But then he comes home from work some days and he'll tell us stories of people he saw or things that happened.
And you're like-
it's like that is literally
He
jury
literally
duty.
was like, "Are you
Like-
describing jury duty right now?"
Yes, yes. You're like, excuse me.
yeah, that
just
one was
happened.
great. That one was fun.
That was fun. I watched like the whole thing in like a day. I feel like that was really
That was a
fun.
good binging one.
And I love that actor, whatever his name is, the main guy.
Oh,
Did you watch any like behind the scenes stuff on that?
Probably
We
not.
watched a little bit. I know your mom told
on
us about a lot of
TikTok.
podcast stuff.
I'll
But
literally fast
how
forward
they
the
like would
episode
change
again.
it because he would say things in conversation and they'd be like, "Oh shit, he's like onto us," like or he's gonna like know
Yeah.
because they had to plan their
Yes,
script around
or when
his,
they left like the
changing-
bag.
oh, and they had to claim it was
And
the
they-
other lady's
yes,
bag.
Yes.
Yes.
Or she called like she's like, oh,
Said
this
the
is
wrong name.
Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
like the South Park joke he made, and they were
Yeah.
like, "Cut, change it."
Well, because no, they had that in the script already, but then they were like, no, like that's too far fetched. And
Yes.
then he literally goes and says it.
Yes.
And they were like,
yes.
okay,
we're
we're
back. Yeah, we're back at it. Yes, I did watch. Yes. So we did watch the after. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. They have to
It
do
was-
more of that for sure.
I know. That was so funny. I loved that.
But right now, Tim Robinson before The Office. Watch
Go
him in
watch
that
that.
order.
Okay.
Go
So
watch
Tim Robinson, then The Office,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll binge watch Gilmore again.
Yeah, there you go. Now that it's fall and give
I
you all
know.
the fall
That's
vibes.
why I always watch it. It's like in the fall.
Maybe
like
I'll
when-
start some
right before the
Gilmores again
snow
right now.
starts, because
Yeah.
she smells snow, and I'm like, oh, I want to smell snow. Not really.
What, Gilmore Girls?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go live in Stars Hollow.
Yes,
The dream.
it is.
I haven't given that one a chance yet.
You should. You should give
I
it a
need to
chance.
watch it.
It's good. Do you like chick flicks?
No.
Oh, darn it.
Yeah.
We're not going to
Well,
be
you
able
always told me that the name girl, it wasn't a chick flick.
No,
That's
you're
just the
thinking about
name.
Gossip Girl, which is also
That's
great.
what I'm thinking of.
I have not
That's what
seen
I'm-
You haven't
Gossip-
seen Gossip Girl
No.
either? That's a good one. It's really funny to watch now because they have their old like little Nokia phones. Like it's like really early 2000s.
It's like really early 2000s.
Really early
That's
2000s.
with Blake Lively, right?
Yes.
Yes. I yeah.
Classic.
I know. I never
give
got
that
into
one a
that one.
go.
Okay. So Tim Robinson, The
Yeah.
Office. Gossip Girl. Okay.
That's how we're gonna end this podcast, is
know.
with our TV recommendations.
Yes. Well, in that case.
So now everyone has some good shows to
So
watch.
no, everyone has some great shows to watch.
I know.
But no, everyone make sure you go and follow
Yes,
Rini
thank you.
Spencer
Yes.
on Instagram
Yes.
and TikTok.
I know.
Are you still all on the TikTok?
Yeah, I don't know. I pulled away from TikTok a lot.
Yeah.
But I still post on there, but I just don't ever like go engage on TikTok. I used to go live like every single night on
Oh
TikTok.
wow. What would you do on live?
Talk to followers.
Just talk.
About trauma. That's why I
we would just cry for 45 minutes.
For 45 minutes. I know it would be like we'd get on one topic and then we'd all just, it was a lot of fun.
I'm sure
cool,
things
though.
just start flowing once that comes out.
It does. Like the first 5 minutes or like the first 5 minutes of a podcast, you're like sweating because you're like, there's only 20 people on, and all of a sudden there's 800 and you're like, I don't know what mascara I'm wearing.
800?
Yeah.
That's scary.
It's like normally you don't open up to people about that stuff.
I
and
know.
Then the second you have someone who's actually going to listen and relate, they're probably like, thank God.
Thank God.
And
I know.
word vomit,
Thankfully, like
everything.
TikTok Live, you can only put up like a sentence. So it's like usually like one question versus like, or you'll have the people, but there's so many comments coming through that it's like they get their
Can't
story
read
gets
anything.
lost. Yeah. But
Yeah.
so I do post on TikTok some, but I feel like TikTok's kind of like a dying social media platform.
Sorry.
So
I don't know.
I think YouTube and Instagram will always kind of stay strong.
Right.
Staples.
Yeah, I wish Instagram was more photography still based, like photo based instead of video based. Because sometimes I'm like, I just want to go to someone's page and look at a picture of them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I agree.
My Instagram is doing really well. So whenever I post something, it does pretty good.
Well, we got to, everyone copy what Rini's doing.
Yeah.
It's not talking about,
I mean, you can talk
Trauma.
about my trauma if you want.
we start a page about your trauma.
About my trauma. That's called Reddit. Just kidding.
Reddit.
I know.
Oh no.
Thankfully, I've only been on Reddit once and it was all good. So
Were you
that's
talking
good.
about your, like, for yourself?
About yours?
No, yeah, somebody had posted like one of my videos to Reddit, but it was good. So
Did you get notified? How did you find out about your video on Reddit?
I think somebody just looked it up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Just-
I used to look up like when I first, because I used to do a lot of video. I've kind of shifted my content to being like where I used to talk a lot to just like me drinking a cup of coffee with an inspirational, sound in the background.
Okay.
But so I used to tell a lot of stories, and I think that one's dead.
Yeah, it's okay. We
Okay,
can-
the last one. Hanging on by a thread.
Okay. I used to tell a lot of stories on there, and so I used to like go to Reddit and like look my name up to see if there was like anybody from my 20s who's like, she's such a liar. She's so abusive. Like,
That's so funny. This is my story from high school.
oh,
about
I'm
Rini.
like, sometimes I'm like, it's true. Okay. The Miley Cyrus, it's true. It's true. That's how I feel. If anybody comes out with stories from like before I was 25, it's likely to be true.
Like, I was an idiot. I don't know.
I'm
Like,
healing. I said I was abusive.
yeah.
I'm sorry to all the people
I'm
who are
working on
listening.
it.
Yes, yes. I'm like, line up and I'll apologize. So, anyways.
And that's the important thing. She can apologize.
Yeah, exactly. Apologize.
That's how we know you're
People
not a
can't
narcissist.
do that.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Tell my mother that.
Okay. I'll call her after
We'll
this.
tell her
Okay.
right now.
I know.
Let's call her.
She might contact you, so just beware. She contacts all the people's pages that I go on.
Great.
So.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways.
Well, thank
look
you
out for
so
that.
much for
You're
coming and hanging
welcome.
out with us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate
Yeah.
it. And look forward to the next one.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll do more for sure.
Yes. All right.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't know. The one
Just
camera
bye.
left.